You ever think you're living the dream, and then one day you wake up and realize it was just a nightmare with nice curtains? That was my life. Name's Ryan, 32 years old, 5 years deep into what everyone around me called a perfect marriage. Me and Laura, we were that couple. You know the ones, cheesy matching Halloween costumes, couples hiking trips, those stupid social media posts like, 5 years stronger, love you forever, babe, 2 hearts. God, thinking about it now makes me sick. I worked a solid, boring job as an insurance adjuster. Not glamorous, but it paid the bills, gave me enough to plan for the house with a picket fence, maybe a little dog running around. Laura? She was the adventurous one, freelance photographer. Always running off to capture some new skyline, some new graffiti wall, some new artsy little moment she said made her feel alive. I loved that about her. Or I thought I did. Our lives were a rhythm. Fridays were for cheap wine and Netflix. Saturdays were for camping trips or board game nights with friends. Sundays? Pancakes and arguing over who had the worst hangover. It wasn't perfect. We had our fights, sure. Dumb little things. She thought I didn't listen enough. I thought she made everything a production. But when I looked at her, that laugh, those stupid bright socks she wore everywhere, even the way she hogged the blankets, it felt like home. It felt safe. I didn't know then that safe is just another word for blind. The night everything cracked open started like any other lazy Thursday. I was half asleep on the couch, half watching some awful reality show Laura had left running, when I heard it. Bam, bam, bam. Someone hammering on the front door like their life depended on it. I jerked up, heart slamming against my ribs. Before I could even stand, the door flew open and there she was, Laura. Tears streaming down her face, clothes twisted and dirty, scraped knee, wild panicked eyes. She threw herself into my arms so hard I nearly lost my balance. He was following me, she sobbed, voice shaking so bad it barely made sense. Ryan, I ran as fast as I could. I think he's still out there. For a second, my brain just froze. What? Who? What the hell was happening? I wrapped my arms around her instinctively, holding her so tight she squeaked. It's okay. You're okay. You're safe now. I kept repeating it, like if I said it enough, it would be true. She kept clinging to me, trembling, gasping like she couldn't catch her breath. I half carried her inside, kicked the door shut with my heel, locked every bolt I could find, called the cops with shaking hands. The police showed up maybe 15 minutes later. I gave them what little Laura could stammer out, dark hoodie, tall, maybe following her from the parking garage near the abandoned rail yard where she'd been shooting some old murals. She was too hysterical to say much else. The officers did a sweep. No sign of anyone. No weird cars lurking nearby. No suspicious figures hiding in the bushes. Just silence and streetlights, and the crickets buzzing in the warm night air. After they left, Laura curled up against me on the couch like a scared little animal. I sat there for hours, rubbing her back, whispering that it was all going to be okay, that I'd never let anything happen to her. I believed every word. Because back then, I still thought she was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because back then, I didn't know what kind of nightmare had already slithered its way inside my house. It's funny, looking back. There were little things even that night that should have made me pause. The way her hands were clean, no dirt under her nails, even though she swore she fell running through an alley. The faint smell of cologne on her jacket, and it wasn't mine. The bruised knee that looked older than a fresh fall should have been. But I didn't think. I couldn't think. Because fear has a smell, you know? It's like metal and sweat and heartbreak all mixed together. And in that moment, Laura smelled like fear. Or at least, I thought she did. And when the person you love more than anything looks you straight in the eye, sobbing, begging you to believe them, you do. You don't even question it. You'd burn the world down to protect them. So that night, I did what any good husband would do. I promised her she was safe. I tucked her into bed like a broken doll. I lay awake next to her until the sun rose, heart pounding, ready to destroy whatever monster had hurt her. I just didn't realize. The monster was already lying right beside me. The first few days after the night were weird. Laura clung to me like a lifeline. Wouldn't even go into the kitchen without asking if I'd come with her. I took a few days off work to stay home, because what else was I supposed to do? She was traumatized. That's what I told myself. Over and over. But trauma didn't explain the way she kept checking her phone every 5 minutes, then tucking it under a couch cushion when I glanced her way. It didn't explain the weird texts that made her smile, and then freeze when she realized I was watching. It didn't explain why she started showering twice a day like she was trying to scrub something off her skin. I tried not to notice. God, I wanted not to notice. I told myself she was just scared. That she was rattled, not thinking straight. That if I just held her tighter, protected her harder, she'd come back to me. But even the way she looked at me changed. It was little things, flinching when I touched her shoulder, pulling away mid-hug, pretending to be asleep when I came to bed. I started feeling like a ghost in my own house. A week after everything, I found her outside on the back porch at 2 a.m, sitting cross-legged on the cold wood, whispering into her phone. I stayed hidden behind the curtains, just watching. My heart felt like it was clawing its way up my throat. I couldn't hear what she was saying, just the low murmur of her voice, the way she twisted a lock of her hair around her finger like a teenager on a first date. I wanted to bust out the door, demand to know who she was talking to. I wanted to grab the phone and smash it against the wall. But I didn't. I just stood there, like a coward, letting the cold seep through the glass and into my bones. When she finally came inside, I pretended to be asleep. She slid under the covers without even brushing against me. Not a word. Not a kiss. Just silence. The kind of silence that doesn't scream, it weeps. It all came to a head about a week later. I was mowing the lawn, trying to clear my head, when our next-door neighbor, Mr. Bell, wandered over. Retired guy. Sweet old man. Loved to gossip more than breathe. He leaned over the fence and said, "Hey, everything all right with you too?" I frowned. Killed the mower. Yeah. Why? He hesitated. Picked at a spot on his wrist. I saw Laura the other night. Thought it was odd. Looked like she was arguing with somebody out front. My heart plummeted straight into my shoes. When was this? I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. He squinted, thinking. Maybe 3-4 nights ago? Late. I was taking Daisy out and, well, there was a dark car parked by your driveway. She was leaning in the window, yelling about something. Then she stormed back inside. I laughed it off. Said something about her getting into it with a DoorDasher. But inside? Inside I was splintering. Because Laura hadn't mentioned anything about that night. No weird car. No fight. No nothing. She just kissed me goodnight like everything was normal. And now I couldn't stop picturing her leaning into some stranger's car, whispering things she couldn't say in our house, maybe even. No, I wasn't going to go there. I wasn't. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, feeling Laura's body turned away from mine like a dam blocking a river. I kept thinking about the bruises that didn't look fresh, the cologne that wasn't mine, the way her hands had been clean, too clean. All the puzzle pieces were there. I just refused to put them together. Because if I did, if I even thought about what they spelled out, I knew I'd never be able to unsee it. And back then, I still wasn't ready to see her for what she really was. I didn't bring it up right away. I told myself I needed more proof. But the real reason was simpler. I was scared. Scared that once the words left my mouth, everything would change. Scared that I'd say it out loud and the fragile little life we had would just crumble. So I kept my mouth shut. Pretended. Played house. And Laura? Laura played right along. Smiling too wide at breakfast. Starting weird little arguments about nothing. Keeping me so wrapped up in fighting over dirty dishes and unwashed laundry that I barely had time to think about the bigger picture. It was like living inside a funhouse mirror. Everything looked close enough to normal to make you doubt your own eyes, but nothing felt real. One night, about 2 weeks after the incident, Laura's best friend Megan invited herself over. Megan was one of those women who always smelled like vanilla lotion and judgment. She walked into my house like she owned it, dumped her purse on my kitchen counter, and said, "You look like crap, Ryan." I blinked at her, caught off guard. Laura giggled nervously, and shoved a beer into my hand like I was some sullen teenager she had to bribe. I forced a smile. "Long week," I muttered. Megan pulled Laura onto the couch, draping herself over the cushions like some bored house cat. "We were just talking," she said brightly, "and we think you need to stop stressing so much." I set the beer down, not drinking it. "Stressing about what?" She gave me this pitying little look that made my fists itch. "About Laura. About everything. Look, what happened to her was traumatic. She doesn't need you hovering and freaking out every time she checks her phone, okay?" Laura sat there beside her, nodding like a bobblehead. Something inside me snapped. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I just said carefully. I never said anything about her phone. The room went completely silent for a beat too long. Megan covered it with a laugh, tossing her hair over her shoulder. Oh please, Ree, it's obvious. You're acting all weird and paranoid. She can feel it. Laura bit her lip, eyes wide and watery, like Megan's words had hurt her more than a punch. And just like that, I was the bad guy. After Megan left, Laura curled up against me on the couch, tucking her head under my chin. I hate that you don't trust me anymore, she whispered, voice trembling. I froze. Because what was I supposed to say? That I trusted her but didn't trust my own eyes? That every time her phone buzzed and she flinched, it felt like someone was driving a nail through my chest? I'm trying, I said instead, my throat dry as dust. She kissed my jaw, soft and shaky. I just need you to believe in me, she said. Please, Ryan. Please. And like a fool I nodded. Because when someone you love begs you to choose them over your own instincts, you do. Even if it breaks you. Especially if it breaks you. But something had cracked open inside me, and no amount of sweet words or stage tears could glue it back shut. I started noticing more. How she always forgot to charge her phone at home now. How she started going on long drives to clear her head at random hours. How she was constantly texting Megan, or at least that's what she said. One night, I even caught a glimpse of her screen over her shoulder. No contact name, just a string of heart emojis. When she realized I was behind her, she slammed the phone face down on the table so fast she nearly knocked over her water. Work stuff, she mumbled, cheeks flushing pink. Work stuff. Heart emojis. Right. By now, suspicion was a living thing inside me. It followed me to work, sat next to me at dinner, slept between us at night. It wasn't if anymore. It was when. When would I catch her? When would she slip? And worst of all, when would I finally stop being too scared to do something about it? I don't know what finally broke me. Maybe it was the 5th girls' night in 2 weeks. Maybe it was the way she kissed me goodbye like she was kissing a wall. Maybe it was just the slow, steady erosion of every gut feeling I'd buried alive. Whatever it was, that night, after Laura peeled out of the driveway, I did something I swore I'd never do. I went through her stuff. Started with the easy places, the junk drawer, the coat pockets, the glove box in her car. Nothing. Then her laptop. She always used the same password, our anniversary. Cute, right? It opened like a charm. First thing I checked was her photo drive. She was a photographer, after all. Lots of folders labeled things like client shoots and portfolio updates. I clicked through them, feeling stupid, feeling sick. Mostly boring stuff. Artsy shots of broken fences, graffiti walls, that kind of crap. But then I saw a folder buried at the bottom. No label. Just a date. The night she claimed she got followed. My hands went clammy. I clicked it open. There were a handful of photos inside. Blurry. Out of focus. But one of them was clear enough. Laura, my wife, wrapped up in some guy's arms, laughing, smiling, kissing him like she'd kissed me once. It was in the alley behind the rail yard. Same place she claimed she got chased. Same night she stumbled home, terrified, and collapsed into my arms. I dropped the laptop like it had burned me. My heart wasn't beating right. Too fast, too loud, too wrong. I stumbled to the bathroom, barely made it before throwing up everything in my stomach. When I finally dragged myself back to the living room, the world looked different, smaller, colder, dead. I sat there for hours, staring at the blank TV, replaying every second of that night in my head. The tears, the shaking, the bruised knee, the police report. All of it had been a goddamn performance, Oscar-worthy. And I had bought it. I had bought it because I loved her. And she had counted on that. She had counted on it. I didn't know who the guy was yet. Didn't recognize him from the photo. Just a shadow in a baseball cap and a smug, easy smile that made me want to break something. But deep down, I knew it wasn't random. It wasn't some one-time screw-up. It was bigger than that. Worse than that. And somehow, I knew Megan was tied up in it too. The way she defended Laura. The way she tried to make me feel crazy for doubting. I wasn't just fighting Laura's betrayal anymore. I was fighting a whole goddamn conspiracy. When Laura came home around midnight, humming under her breath, smelling like cheap perfume and someone else's cologne, I was still sitting there in the dark, She jumped when she saw me. "Oh my God, Ryan, you scared me!" she laughed, flipping on the light. "What are you doing up?" I stared at her, really stared, at the too sweet smile. The way she kept shifting her purse to hide it behind her leg. The faint hickey blooming just under the edge of her scarf. I wanted to scream, wanted to tear the room apart, wanted to ask her how long she'd been lying, how many nights she'd come home from another man's arms straight into mine. But I didn't. I just smiled, and said, "Couldn't sleep." Because now I wasn't playing defense anymore. Now I was planning my next move, and when I made it, she wasn't going to see it coming. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat there in the living room, lights off, brain churning like a meat grinder. Every time I closed my eyes I saw that photo. Laura's face lit up, laughing into a kiss that wasn't mine. And every time, something inside me cracked a little more. By sunrise I wasn't sad anymore. Wasn't confused. I was cold, focused, angry in a way that felt clean for the first time in weeks. I wasn't going to confront her half-cocked, screaming like some idiot in a soap opera. No. If I was going to burn this down, I was going to do it right. First step, lock down the evidence. I backed up every photo, every timestamp, every scrap of proof onto a flash drive. 2 copies, one hidden in my work locker, one buried at the bottom of the toolbox in the garage. Then I pulled the footage from our doorbell cam, the one Laura thought had been broken. I'd quietly fixed it the week after this stalker night but hadn't checked it yet. I braced myself for what I was about to see. At 10:42 p.m. that night, the footage clicked on. Laura sprinting up the driveway, fake crying, throwing herself into my arms. But 15 minutes before that, a dark SUV pulled up at the curb. Laura stepping out, laughing, lingering at the driver's side window. Then, and this made my stomach twist, leaning in for a kiss. The man was just a blurry shadow, but he wasn't a stranger. I recognized the hoodie, the sneakers, the slouch. It was Bryce, Megan's husband, the same Bryce who sat in my living room every other weekend, sipping my beer, laughing at my jokes. The same Bryce who stood beside me when I married Laura. And now he was standing in my driveway, kissing my wife, planning whatever performance she'd pulled off minutes later. I felt something tear inside me. Not rage, not sadness, something deeper, quieter, like a steel cable snapping in the middle of the night. They hadn't just betrayed me. They'd made a goddamn fool out of me. Laura, Bryce, Megan, all of them smiling in my face while they danced knives down my back. It wasn't just infidelity. It was humiliation. And I was done playing the idiot. I spent the next 2 days pretending everything was fine. Woke up early, made Laura coffee, kissed her goodbye at the door. I even offered to run errands, pick up dinner, book her a spa day, to help her de-stress. Every lie tasted like ash in my mouth, but I smiled through it, because I was building something, planning something. And the best part? They had no idea. I waited until Saturday night to set the trap. Board game night, something we used to do with friends every month like clockwork. I told Laura it would be just like old times, texted Megan and Bryce, invited them over with fake enthusiasm. Laura jumped at it, eyes shining too bright, voice just a little too high. Of course she wanted Megan there. Of course Bryce would come along. Everyone together, playing normal, pretending nothing was broken. It was perfect. They showed up just after 7. Bryce carrying a 6-pack, Megan bouncing through the door like a damn cheerleader. Laura hugged them both too long, laughing too loud. I watched it all with the detached fascination of a man studying insects behind glass. We drank, we played, we bullshitted about work and TV shows and vacation plans. Every move was rehearsed. Every laugh was a knife twisting between my ribs. And the whole time, my hand hovered over the little remote hidden in my hoodie pocket, waiting, watching. About 2 hours in, when the drinks were flowing and the guards were down, I decided it was time. I leaned back in my chair, stretching like I was getting comfortable. "Hey," I said casually, "you guys have to see this new video my doorbell cam caught. Crazy stuff." Laura stiffened, just for a second, barely noticeable. But I noticed. I fumbled with my phone, pretending to struggle with the Bluetooth, grinning like an idiot while I queued up the footage. The TV blinked to life, and there it was. First, Laura stepping out of the SUV, laughing, touching Bryce's arm. Pause. Megan's laugh cut off mid-sentence. Bryce shifted in his seat, beer bottle halfway to his mouth. Laura's face drained of color so fast it was like watching a corpse sink underwater. I let the video play. Laura leaning into the window, kissing him, clear as day. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. I let the silence stretch until it felt like it might tear the room apart. Then I said calmly, "Funny. That doesn't look like a stalker to me." Laura opened her mouth. No words came out. Bryce put down his beer with a shaky clink. Megan looked like she wanted the floor to open up and swallow her whole. I stood up, slow and deliberate, the chair legs scraping loud against the floor. "I know everything," I said. "All of it. How long it's been going on. How you used me. How you lied to my face. Over and over." Laura started crying. Megan started stammering something about not meaning for it to happen. Bryce just sat there, face blank, like a man already planning his next excuse. I didn't yell. I didn't throw anything. I just looked at each of them, one by one, and said, "You deserve each other." Then I turned and walked out of my own house. Let them rot in the ashes. The second I stepped outside, the night air hit me like a slap. It was cool, sharp, buzzing with the kind of energy that only comes when something irreversible has just happened. I didn't look back, didn't listen for footsteps or apologies. I just walked down the street, hands shoved deep in my hoodie, heart thudding like a war drum. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. Real peace. Because it was over. The pretending, the questioning, the endless, aching hope, dead and buried. I crashed at a buddy's place that night. Matt, my oldest friend, the one who never liked Laura but kept his mouth shut for my sake. When I showed up at his door looking like a storm cloud, he just stepped aside without asking questions and handed me a beer. We sat on his ratty old couch for hours, mostly silent, watching some late-night sports highlights either of us cared about. Finally, around 3 in the morning, I told him everything. The fake stalker, the kiss, the footage. Matt didn't interrupt. Didn't say "I told you so." He just listened. And when I finally ran out of words, he clapped me on the shoulder hard enough to make my teeth click and said, "You want to nuke these mother ******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** in months. The next day, the real reckoning began. First stop, Laura's parents. They always loved to pretend we were one big happy family. Always acted like they practically gave me their daughter, like I was lucky to be in their orbit. I drove straight to their place, flash drive burning a hole in my pocket. Laura's dad opened the door, smile slipping when he saw my face. "Ryan! What? I need you to see something," I said. I didn't wait for an invitation. Walked right in, plugged the drive into their TV, played the footage. Watched them watch their daughter kiss another man in the dark. Watched her mother's hand fly to her mouth. Watched her father's face strain to the color of old paper. I didn't say a word. When the clip ended, I turned to them and said, "Tell your daughter the divorce papers are coming. And tell her I'm not keeping this quiet." Then I walked out, leaving their perfect suburban living room hanging heavy with shame. After that, it was a domino effect. I sent the footage to a few key friends. Didn't blast it all over social media. I'm not an animal, but I made sure it landed where it needed to. Our mutual friend group, split like dry wood. Half blocked Laura overnight. The other half tried to stay neutral, which told me exactly where their loyalties lay. As for Megan and Bryce, the fallout hit them even harder. Turns out Megan didn't know about the kiss. Not really. She'd been helping Laura lie, sure, telling her to spin the stalker story, encouraging her to work through the rough patch. But she hadn't realized Bryce was part of it. Not until she saw the footage for herself. I got a text from Megan 3 days later. A single line. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I left him." No apology about what she didn't know. No apology about helping Laura string me along like a puppet while my life burned. I didn't answer. Didn't need to. Let her sit in the wreckage she helped create. Laura tried, of course. Tried to call. Tried to text. At first it was just sobbing voicemails. Then it was rage. "You ruined my life. How could you do this to me? You'll regret this." Every message made it easier. Every pathetic, furious word hardened the steel inside me. I filed for divorce within the week. Had the papers drawn up fast and clean, infidelity cited, assets frozen, lawyers lined up. Laura tried to fight it at first, screamed about how I was being cruel, about how she made a mistake. But there's something beautiful about proof. When you have hard evidence in your pocket, All the lies in the world collapsed like wet paper. In the end, she signed. No choice. No leverage. No sympathy. Just her signature on the line and my freedom in my hands. I moved out a week later. Left the house that had become a tomb of broken memories. Took only what I needed. Clothes. Documents. The few things that hadn't been tainted by her hands. Everything else? Let her keep it. Let her sit among the ashes of the life she destroyed. There was a moment, just one, when I almost felt sorry for her. Packing the last box. Standing in the driveway. Watching her sit crumpled on the porch steps, face buried in her hands, shoulders shaking. But it passed, because I remembered the look on her face the night she burst through our door pretending to be scared. I remembered the laughter in her kiss with Bryce. And I remembered that she hadn't been sorry when she was lying. Only when she got caught. So I got in my truck, turned the key, and drove away without looking back. 6 months. That's how long it's been since I drove away from that house and didn't look back. Funny thing is, it didn't take long for the pain to dull. Not because I forgot. Not because it didn't matter. Because once you see someone's true face, you can't unsee it. And the love you thought you had for them? It rots, dries up like a river in the desert, turns into something smaller, lighter, easier to carry. I live 2 states away now. Took a new job closer to the mountains, small apartment, big windows, no ghosts. I go hiking on weekends, read books I never had time for, started running again, just for the hell of it. Most days, I don't even think about her. Most days. Every now and then I hear things. Small town gossip travels fast, even across state lines when people are bored enough. Laura lost a lot after I left. Her brand. As a lifestyle photographer? Dead. Turns out clients don't want to hire someone whose name pops up on Facebook with words like adulterer and scandal floating nearby. She bounced between a few freelance gigs before flaming out entirely. Last I heard, she was working part-time at a consignment store. Nothing wrong with that. But not exactly the glamorous life she loved to flaunt on Instagram. As for Bryce? Megan kicked him out 3 days after game night. No second chances. No heartfelt speeches. Just a garbage bag full of clothes on the lawn and a restraining order threat if he didn't get lost. From what Matt tells me, Bryce tried crawling back to Laura after Megan dumped him. But by then, Laura was radioactive. Nobody wanted to be the guy who signed up for a woman whose lies had blown up half the town. Poetic, right? The 2 people who couldn't stay away from each other, now couldn't stand the sight of each other. Karma has a funny sense of humor. I never responded to Laura's last text, didn't block her either. I wanted her to see the read receipts, to know I saw it, to know I didn't care enough to answer. Silence is a language all its own, and sometimes it's the loudest thing you can say. The final twist came about a month ago. I was grabbing groceries, running late, half distracted with my shopping list. I almost didn't notice her, Megan, standing by the frozen foods, looking like she aged 5 years and 6 months, hair tied back messy, dark circles under her eyes. Our eyes locked for half a second. She looked away first. But before I could push my cart and leave her to her misery, she walked up. Slow. Careful. Like she thought I might bolt. Ryan, she said, voice low, almost guilty. I didn't say anything. Just waited. She swallowed hard, twisting the hem of her jacket. I need to tell you something, she said. Something I should have told you a long time ago. I stayed silent. Megan glanced around, like she was afraid someone might overhear. Then she said it. Laura, she and Bryce, they didn't start that night. It wasn't new. It's been going on for over a year, maybe longer. She wiped at her eyes, furious with herself. I helped her lie to you. I thought I was protecting her. I didn't know about the kissing, about how deep it went, but I knew there was someone. I'm sorry. I stared at her. A year, maybe more. An entire year of my life spent sleeping beside someone who treated me like a safety net. A wallet. A fool. And Megan, the so-called best friend, had been helping her keep the mask on. I thought I'd feel anger, rage. But I didn't. I just felt tired and free. I nodded once. Then I pushed my cart past her without another word. Because the thing about closure is, you don't get it from apologies. You don't get it from revenge. You get it the moment you stop needing anything from the people who hurt you. And I was already there. Already free. Already gone.